Right. So today we're going to do a deep dive on something pretty strange.
Yeah.
Unexplained drone activity. And
Right.
this has been going on for over a year now.
Yeah.
And it has really gotten to a point where it is, I would say it's impacting everybody.
It is.
From just like the average person to even like high profile people.
Oh, yeah.
Like Donald Trump. We'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get there.
But the biggest thing here that we are going to try to unpack today.
Yeah.
Is this just like a bunch of hobbyists doing this stuff, or is there something else going on? Because a lot of the official responses from different agencies and whatnot really don't seem to add up. So let's start all the way back in December of 2023 at Langley Air Force Base.
Right. So that's Langley is a strategically important Air Force base in Virginia. And it was swarmed by these unidentified drones for weeks.
And not just like a couple drones.
No.
Like you're talking.
It wasn't just like...
This is some serious stuff.
Yeah, a few drones just kind of like hovering around.
Yeah, for 17 nights straight.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Yeah. They even scrambled F-16s.
Yeah, they did.
And brought in like a NASA high-altitude research plane.
A specialized one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the WB-57F.
That doesn't exactly scream like...
Right.
Oh, it's just some,
harmless.
Hobbyists. Yeah, harmless hobbyists, right.
Yeah.
And the head of NORAD and Northcom, General Guillot, even said at a Senate hearing that he was surprised by how many incursions there were.
Yeah, and that he was using that as a central focus for his assessment of their command's ability to handle future drone threats.
Yeah, that's not exactly reassuring, is it?
No, it doesn't make you feel very good.
It doesn't make you feel warm and fuzzy inside.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Like, oh yeah, we're totally prepared for this.
Right, exactly. We got this, don't worry. Right, and then it escalates.
Yeah.
So now we jump ahead to November of 2024.
Okay.
These drone sightings start escalating along the East Coast, especially in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And now it's not just military bases anymore.
Exactly.
We're talking like...
power plants.
Yeah. Power plants, shipping ports.
Shipping ports.
Residential areas. And these aren't just like random drones.
Right.
Witnesses are describing them moving in like...
coordinated patterns.
Coordinated patterns in swarms.
Yeah, swarms.
So this is like...
like flocks of birds.
Yeah, like this is something different.
Yeah, that's suggesting organization and a level of sophistication that goes way beyond your average drone enthusiast.
You're like, oh, I'm just going to go for a little flight today.
Oh, right, exactly.
Yeah. And so while all of this is going on, social media is lighting up.
Of course.
With videos and photos and all this stuff of these mysterious drone swarms. But what are officials saying?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's probably just hobbyists.
Right.
Maybe it's some law enforcement drones. I even saw...
and they even said...
one report where they said it was stars.
They blame them on stars. Can you believe that?
Stars? Seriously?
I know. It's like, what?
Yeah.
So this is where the incongruencies really start to, like, pop up.
Yeah, it's like...
right.
They're trying to say one thing, but then their actions are totally different.
Right. So on one hand, you've got, officials like John Kirby from the White House, Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas, they're downplaying the whole thing.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, authorities are taking actions that suggest that they're really concerned.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to calm everybody down.
Right.
But then, like, behind the scenes...
yeah, behind the scenes, they're like, oh my God, what is going on?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like, do you remember that drone crash in Pequannock Township, New Jersey?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Authorities told responders to wear hazmat suits.
Yeah.
And they had bomb squads on standby.
Like what?
Yeah, all the precautions. If it's just like some hobbyist drone.
Exactly right. If these things are so harmless, why are we going through all this?
Right. And then it gets even weirder.
Okay.
Local communities are starting to shoot these things down.
Right.
I mean, you can't blame them.
No.
With the lack of information.
Of course.
And no real action being taken. But then law enforcement's like...
don't do that.
Yeah, don't shoot them down.
Right.
You could cause devastation.
Right, because they're so harmless.
So which is it?
Right, exactly.
Is it harmless or is it hazardous?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like they're giving us mixed messages.
Yeah.
It's a classic case of...
and this disconnect between what they're saying...
right.
And what they're doing is causing a lot of fear and confusion.
Absolutely.
And it really makes you wonder, what do they know?
Right. What are they not telling us?
That they're not telling us.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's add another layer to this whole thing.
Okay.
So there's this missing radioactive material, G68.
Right.
G68.
In New Jersey.
Right. And officials reported this missing on December 3rd, 2024. And so some people are starting to theorize that maybe these drones are part of, like,
a government search.
A government search effort.
Right.
But here's the thing.
What's that?
These drone incidents have been happening since December 2023.
Right.
A whole year earlier.
So unless the government had a crystal ball and knew this stuff was going to go missing a year in advance, it seems pretty unlikely.
It doesn't seem like that's what they're doing.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, so if it's not about finding missing radioactive material,
right,
then what is the real story here?
Exactly what is going on.
So Congressman Michael McCall has been pretty vocal, claiming that at least some of these drones, especially those spotted near military installations, are Chinese spy drones, which, given China's known capabilities in drone technology and their history of espionage, isn't a far-fetched idea.
No, not really.
But even with that theory, there are still a lot of unanswered questions.
There are?
Like, why the hazmat suits?
Exactly.
And the bomb squads.
Right.
And why are they downplaying the threat?
Why are they still doing that?
Yeah.
It's just fueling speculation and distrust. Like, it's driving everybody crazy.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what's going on.
So we've got all this weird drone activity, conflicting statements from officials.
Right.
A whole lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing to me
What's that?
That is concerning is that we have local law enforcement who are basically stuck dealing with all this with very limited resources and authority.
Yeah, they're on the front lines
of this, and they don't even really know what they're dealing with.
Right.
And might not have the tools to even handle it.
So it's like they're being thrown into this situation.
Exactly.
That they're not even prepared for.
They're not ready for this.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the groundwork.
Yeah, we laid out the problem.
Of what's been going on. So, pretty unnerving picture, to say the least.
Yeah, it's a little scary.
But where do we go from here?
Right, what does this all mean for the future?
What are the potential implications of all this?
Exactly, like what's going to happen next. Yeah, that's a good question. And that's actually what we're going to get into after a quick break.
All right, sounds good. So it seems like we're in a situation where, like, the technology has kind of, like, outpaced our ability to even understand and regulate it.
Yeah, it's moving so fast.
It is.
That, like, our systems for monitoring and controlling these things are just struggling to keep up.
Yeah, and it's not like we can just, like, ban all drones. They do have legitimate uses in a lot of different industries, from package delivery to infrastructure inspections and things like that.
Yeah, like my new, like, leaf blower is like a drone.
Yes, exactly. So it's like, how do we balance these benefits with, like, the security and the privacy concerns?
Yeah, and that's the thing that, like, to me is so jarring about this whole thing.
Yeah.
Is, like, these people in positions of authority are saying, like, oh, don't worry about it.
Right, it's fine.
But then they're taking these precautions.
Right, exactly.
Hazmat suits and the bomb squads.
What is going on?
It just seems like a massive contradiction.
It is a contradiction, and that just makes people more anxious. It fuels distrust.
Right, because they're not getting straight answers.
Right.
So they're left to fill in the blanks themselves.
Exactly, and that leads to fear and speculation and...
Right, so they're saying...
all sorts of craziness.
Everything's fine.
Don't worry, everything's fine.
But then behind the scenes... They're, like, prepping for, like, the worst case scenario.
They're, like, freaking out.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, it's like a really weird mixed message.
It is very strange.
So if we can't just ban them all...
Right.
What do we do?
Well, that's a great question.
Like, how do we get a handle on this?
How do we fix this?
Before it, like, spirals out of control.
Right. I think the first thing we need clear regulations for drone use.
Yeah.
You know, things like registration requirements, licensing for operators, designated flight zones, strict penalties for people who violate the rules.
Yeah, like we have with cars.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we have rules for driving. We need rules for flying drones, too.
Yeah, so basically like an air traffic control.
Yeah, kind of.
But for drones.
Yeah, for drones, exactly.
So they can monitor the traffic identify potential threats, and then take action.
And that might involve technologies like geofencing.
Yeah.
Where you create a virtual boundary that the drones can't enter.
Right.
Or even counter drone systems that can disable them or redirect them.
So it sounds like we need to get some high-tech solutions.
Yeah, we need some fancy technology.
Yeah, but who's going to pay for all that?
That's a great question.
Is that going to be...
It's probably going to be a combination of government funding, private sector investment, and maybe even fees for the drone operators. But really, when you think about it, that the cost of not doing anything could be way worse.
Yeah, all the potential security breaches.
Right, exactly. The privacy violations, even the potential for loss of life.
Makes you wonder why we aren't already doing this.
I know, right?
Why is this...
We've known about this for a while.
Yeah, why are we so far behind?
I think people tend to underestimate the threat. They're like, oh, it's just a drone.
Yeah, what's it gonna do?
Right, they can be dangerous.
Yeah, but until then, it feels like we're just sitting ducks.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say sitting ducks.
Okay.
There are things we can do right now to make things better.
Okay.
I mean, in addition to the regulations and technology, we also need to educate people.
Yeah, what
are the rules? What are the dangers?
Yeah, don't shoot them down with your shotgun.
Yeah, exactly. Don't try to be a hero.
No. That's a bad idea.
Leave it to the professionals.
Yeah, so I guess it's not really fair to say that it's just drones.
Right. We tend to think of drones as these little things buzzing around, making pictures and stuff.
Yeah.
But the technology is changing so fast that we're on the verge of something much bigger.
You're talking about AI-controlled drones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Drones that can think for themselves.
Those are real.
Yeah, they're coming. It's pretty wild.
That sounds like some sci-fi stuff.
It does, doesn't it?
But also kind of terrifying.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so what happens?
So that brings up a lot of ethical questions and philosophical questions, too.
Right.
Who's responsible when a drone makes a mistake? Who decides the rules for a robot army?
Right. What are the rules of engagement?
Exactly. And what if this technology falls into the wrong hands?
Oh, yeah.
Terrorists, rogue states, criminals.
Yeah, that's scary.
That's a scary thought.
Yeah, because you think about it.
Yeah.
What's to stop them from hacking into these things.
Exactly.
And causing chaos.
It's a nightmare scenario.
Yeah, it's we're opening Pandora's box.
It kind of is.
We're unleashing this technology with the potential for good and bad.
Right.
But we don't really know what we're doing.
I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, so it's we're standing at this crossroads.
We are.
And we can either ignore the dangers.
Right. And just hope for the best. Yeah.
Or we can be proactive and try to make sure
take steps
that this technology is used responsibly.
Yeah, and ethically.
Exactly.
And that choice is up to us.
It is.
Okay, so we've talked about all the potential dangers, but what about
the good stuff?
Yeah, what about the potential for good?
Yeah, not all doom and gloom.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second. What can these things do to help us?
I mean, think about it. They could deliver medical supplies to remote areas, plant trees to fight deforestation, monitor wildlife populations, help with disaster relief.
Yeah, the possibilities are endless.
They are.
We just got to shift our focus from the scary stuff
to the good stuff.
To the good stuff.
And we're already seeing examples of that.
Yeah, like what?
In humanitarian aid, environmental conservation, scientific research.
Right.
There's a lot of potential here.
So it's about recognizing the potential of this technology.
To make a real difference in the world.
Absolutely.
It's about using our ingenuity to create a better future.
For everyone.
Yeah, not just for profit or military dominance.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've talked about the unexplained drone activity, the potential risks of AI-controlled drones.
Right.
And also the inspiring possibilities for using these things to make a positive impact.
It's been a fascinating conversation.
But before we wrap things up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Ooh, love a good cliffhanger.
Well, it's not really a cliffhanger.
Okay.
It's more of a call to action.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more.
So we've talked a lot about the dangers
of
this technology, and that's important.
It is.
But what if we flipped the script?
Okay.
What if we focused on the potential for good? What if we put our energy and resources into developing these things for good?
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
So the future of this technology isn't predetermined.
Right.
it's up to us to shape it.
We have the power.
Yeah, we have the power to guide it in a direction that aligns with our values.
I love that.
And aspirations.
It's a responsibility we shouldn't take lightly.
Yeah. So, on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us. And until next time, keep those minds curious.
And those hearts hopeful.
So it's like we've been going back and forth with like, oh, this could be so cool. And then...
oh my God, are they going to take over the world?
Right, yeah.
It's a lot.
Well, that's because we're at this like really unique point in history where we have this powerful new technology that's emerging. And we're all just trying to figure out, like, what does it mean for us?
Yeah.
Like, as individuals, as a society, as a species even.
Yeah. And it's not even just the technology itself. It's like the choices that we make.
The rules that we put in place and like the conversations that we have, but the ethical implications.
The ethics of it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't just like sit back and let this stuff happen. We have to be involved.
Yeah. Like, how do we make sure that this is serving humanity?
Right. Exactly.
And not just
corporations or governments.
Corporations and governments. Yeah.
So it sounds like a pretty tall order.
It is a big task.
Like, what can we as just like average people do to make sure that happens?
Well, I think the first thing is awareness.
Okay.
Like, we have to educate ourselves about what's going on.
So no more like sticking our heads in the sand.
No more burying our heads in the sand.
Yeah, and hoping it'll go away.
We got to face this head on.
Right.
Be informed, be engaged, ask questions.
Yeah, and like demand transparency.
Exactly. Hold people accountable. You know?
And I would imagine like supporting organizations
that are like trying to develop ethical guidelines.
Absolutely.
For this kind of stuff.
There are groups out there doing amazing work. We need to support them.
So it's funny, we started this whole conversation talking about these mysterious drones.
Yeah, these unexplained things in the sky.
Yeah, and now we're talking about...
oh, we're talking about the future of warfare.
Right, like the future of warfare.
AI.
AI taking over.
Ethics. Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's like straight out of a sci-fi novel.
It really is. It's crazy how fast things are changing.
It is crazy how fast things are moving.
Yeah.
So what's like the big takeaway here?
I think the most important thing to remember is that the future is not something that just happens to us.
Right.
We create the future.
Yeah. We have the power to shape this.
We do.
Yeah.
We have the power to guide it, to make sure that it aligns with what we want.
And that's a huge responsibility.
It is.
Yeah. So I think it's a good reminder that, like, we're not just passive observers.
We're active participants.
Yeah. And our choices matter.
They do. Every choice we make matters.
Okay. Well, on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us. And remember,
the future is in our hands.
The future is in our hands.
Let's make it a good one.